1st, 2023. Roll call, please.
Meyer is excused. Bhatia.
Here.
Washburn.
Here.
Driver.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Van Beckham.
Here.
And Bozanovsky is also excused.
All right, very good. Yeah, we'll keep moving on for the approval of the meeting minutes from May 17th, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the May 17, 2023 minutes of the meeting with one typo that I mentioned to you earlier on page item 3, line 3 should be 90th Street, not 98th Street. Just a typo.
Second. You got it. Okay. Motion second. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be the Yates Drive Site Plan Review SP 2214 Approval Extension Request.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, our site plan approvals per ordinance lapse after a year if no one has pulled a building permit. So fiduciary, due to market conditions, requested that we extend the approval for 12 additional months, looking at a 2024 start potentially for the Braun Road 2 apartments. These are the 3-story ones that you approved middle of last year. So the Plan Commission by ordinance has the authority to grant an extension, and the village staff, we haven't changed the ordinances significantly between last year and this year to make them resubmit a full site plan. So we're good with the extension as well.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any comments, questions, concerns?
I've just got a question for staff. Is there any general policy or procedures with respect to the length? Is 12 months the norm? Is 12-month the policy, or is it just depends on circumstances?
Circumstances. We've only received a couple of these requests, so it's up to you. And they are, 12 months. We'd probably try to keep it within a couple years at the max. Any longer than that, theoretically, we'll have gone through ordinance changes by then where we would likely want them to come back for a site plan review again. But because we haven't in the last year and we don't have anything on track that would affect this approval within the next year in like the strategic plan or anything like that, we're comfortable with the 12 months.
Okay.
Chairman, just kind of a question to fiduciary and understand, in other words, I remember the 3-story building. Obviously, being a trustee, I was on the board when we approved that. And I recognize also the cost of building 3-story buildings right now, those taller buildings. Personally and professionally, I would certainly want to leave the door open. Your existing seasons is so successful in its own right. I guess my question would be, to leave the door open if you have thoughts of changing that building, or, do you have any thoughts in that regard at this point, or are you still looking at that being, because it was a unique building, your market studies had showed a need for, that particular style of housing and so forth. I guess I'd just be curious to see take the temperature, other than what we know, which is the cost of construction and so forth.
I guess we're at a point if you'd like to address that. Sure. Name and address, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Washburn. And Craig Raditz, Fiduciary Real Estate Development, 789 North Water Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yes, on this one, the extension, actually, all of you are familiar with Tracy Cross and Associates, and they've done a lot of work here in Racine County. I first, actually 27 years ago, I met Eric in the first 6 months at Fiduciary, so we've worked with them a lot also. Right now, we have a full market study being done, or a partial market study being done by them that we expect in the middle of July on what we call the Braun Road 2 or Yates Drive. And it will bleed into our subject. 2 items from now that were in front of you today is just that last year 450 basis points of interest rate hikes cost literally 30% year over year. We have our own general contractor, which we're so thankful for, because we wouldn't have been doing anything, and we did almost halt halt everything last fall. Fortunately, it does seem, of course, the rates have kind of hit a point. Rents are certainly up across all areas, which is encouraging, but again, costs are only mitigating slowly. To that question, we still love this four-story or three-story type of, it's much in our past that we have done mainly three-story buildings, and we think it still makes a lot of sense. But you're exactly right. The three-story buildings, you got to do underground garages, and the costs end up being almost the same for smaller units. So we've got the market study going. We're optimistic. We are starting to see 7 or 8% drop in some of the costs, but we still believe it's a very viable community, and we're planning on picking it up and being back in front of you probably about August.
Thank you, Craig, for that comment, for that information. Again, I don't have any problem with the extension at all, and I guess in my mind, I'm just wanting my fellow commissioners to know that I certainly leave the door open to market changes. You're
Sure.
updating your Stacy Cross, and I'm completely open-minded to, if the market forces you to change it, let's look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next will be 8311 16th Street Site Plan Review, SP 2312. Sam?
SC Johnson applied to add solar panels to 2 areas of the Waxdale property. The applicant previously received approval for Site A, which lies on the roof of Waxdale Building at 65A. The application includes Site B, located north of Waxdale Building 65A, and Site C, located west of the Waxdale main entrance driveway. As a reminder, the village allows solar panels by right in all zoning districts. But due to the size of this installation being greater than 5,000 square feet of a modified area to their site plan, that's why they have to come in front of the Plan Commission. For landscaping and screening, we do define solar panels as outdoor mechanical equipment. So they asked for alternative compliance for Site C, which may be partially visible from 16th Street. It's set back a good distance, but it's pretty flat out there. So just to be safe, they applied for that alternative compliance. The applicant proposed providing short native prairie vegetation surrounding the array and preserving the existing vegetation between the array and 16th Street. I have the authority to approve that. I had no issue with it. They wanted to keep the landscaping low from that vista point off 16th Street, as that's the main entrance to the Waxdale campus. Between the solar panels and the turbines that they have up, it's a nice kind of vista of some of the green energy infrastructure that SCJ is looking to invest in or has already invested in. So it's a nice example for our community as well. We have no issue with that. There's plenty of existing landscaping out there on the rest of the Waxdale property. They also provided the appropriate landscaping screening for Site B along Willow Road, so those panels will be screened between the right-of-way and the panel installation out there. With that, for fiscal impact, just a reminder, we'll get about a $6,500 increase to our shared revenue from the state due to the increase in solar panels. We get kind of makeup payments. The county does as well, so that's nice for them too. And plus an additional amount based on general structures, but it's a pretty low amount. So about $6,500 that the village will net by just approving these 2 installations and the one that we already approved on the rooftop of the building. With that, we have no other recommended conditions, and we recommend that you all approve of the application.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Sam?
No.
None?
Just as a note, some of these we will likely look for potential code updates. We've seen a couple of these kind of moderate-sized installations on private property come in between the one that was on the Foxconn site and these. So we're thinking about what we're allowing by right and what's coming in front of the Plan Commission here. Some of these, due to their scale, might be greater than 5,000 square feet of area in terms of affected area on a site plan, but it really kind of seems silly to bring them through a full Plan Commission application for something that's, not a utility scale installation. So we're thinking that through. Nothing solidified on our end, but we'll likely come back later this year with some proposed updates to make some of these minor solar installations a little bit quicker to get through.
Thank you, Nancy.
Is the applicant or a representative here? No, okay. Well, if there's no further questions or comments, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for the applicant, but since the applicant is not here, technical question. Do you know, Sam, if they're planning to store this energy or feed this back to the we energy, because, you know, when there's no sun?
The interconnect typically allows for that type of thing, but due to the
Yeah.
high energy demands at Waxdale, which from my understanding is a 24/7 production facility, I doubt it. I think this is more of an example. It's only like 2.5 megawatts for a pretty large scale thing. I think most of the plant runs off of the turbines that are out there, so this is more of a kind of nibbling around the edges type, you know. We like solar panels and we have some free green space on our site that we can put them up, but
I was just curious.
that's about it, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm very happy to see it. I really like their approach to managing their plant and so forth. And I'm very glad to hear that that is also something that adds to our shared revenue. So is that the case, and I'm off topic, but is that the case as well if individual homeowners are adding solar panels? Do we get some kind of credit in shared revenue in that regard as well?
Generally, yes, but the homeowner ones are so small, I don't know how
It's like pennies.
DOR capture those.
Yeah, it has to be some level of utility scale, and it has to be measured, like the only unit that they measure is megawatts.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's way beyond what a residential scale can do, unless, I mean, you know, you have John Menard's house or something like that, you know, big house.
Well, okay.
It's certainly something that, you know, we allow by right, and we would certainly encourage other property owners to look at, you know, particularly for our distribution warehousing buildings and stuff that have pretty low power demands. If structurally the buildings can hold it, there's nothing that we're getting in the way of these things going up, so.
Yeah, that's what I mean, just to be able to encourage that. If it's something that's savings for them and additional revenue for us, it's a win-win for everybody, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other further questions or comments? Any public comment? Then I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. Next will be the Spring Street site plan. I'm sorry that we already did that one, right? No, I'm sorry. The Spring Street site plan review, SP 2314.
There are multiple slides here. Yeah. So fiduciary real estate development applied to build 320-unit moderate density development with a clubhouse building and 16 two-story stacked flat buildings. The property lies west of County Road V and north of Spring Street. The development would bring Carrington Boulevard and Rosewood Lane northwards from C to the north edge of the property. It's a pretty long thing here, so I'm just going to highlight some of the staff executive recommendations that we have at the end. Issues with the site plan. First, there is no sewer and water currently installed in Spring Street. The Leo project to the south will bring it. You can see their property line is about halfway across the south property line here. So someone's gonna, you know, the adjacent development will bring sewer and water about halfway across their south property line. Fiduciary will be responsible for taking the rest of it westwards to the edge of their property line. So that will be in Spring Street. That's condition number 1.
Sam, is that work in process from the neighbor?
Yes, yes, they are in the midst of signing their CSMs and kind of finalizing their application.
So your expectation is high that the sewer lines will be brought to this applicant's property line?
Yes. An absolute worst-case scenario, if Leo falls through for whatever reason, the tax increment district is still out there, so we do have a financial mechanism in place. If the cost burden for the developer becomes much higher than they originally anticipated, we can certainly discuss, you know, how municipal infrastructure incentives can play into some of that as well. So tax credits and things like that.
This property is located in the TID already.
Yes, it is.
Correct.
That's
So-
TID 7.
Right, in TID 7, so, very exciting.
Number 2, the applicant shall denote the materials used for their pedestrian circulation system drive aisle crossings per 90-420-70, blah, blah, blah. They have indicated that they're, sorry, I don't need to read the whole thing. They have indicated they're going to use like a thermoplastic tape out there, which holds up a lot better than typical, like epoxy paint. Usually for that, so they'll denote the drive aisle crossings using that where they can. But we need them to update the plans to reflect that, just so we have something, written on the plan set. Number 3, the applicant shall provide a TIA, traffic impact analysis, before the village approves any grading or building permits for the project. The applicant shall construct all recommended improvements described within the TIA. That'll also involve some coordination with Racine County, because they are connecting those new north-south public roads into Spring Street, over which Racine County has the ultimate approval denial authority. Racine County just issued Leo to the south their permits to bring Rosewood on the east side all the way up and connect into C. And this will just kind of mirror across the street some of that. The applicant has also been in conversation with adjacent property owner to share some of that right-of-way burden. Moving on, number 4, the applicant shall update the landscaping plan to ensure all interior parking areas meet the location and distribution requirements. There was a couple rear parking areas that looked like they might be just outside of the 150-foot kind of buffer, where we require that all parking areas are within that landscaped area. So some of the minor ones, kind of where there's 3 buildings on the east and west side that share a center parking court, look to be a little bit long, as well as on the south side of the site where there's the 6 buildings that all kind of the back sides face each other. Some of those areas near the garages looked like they were a little bit further away than 150 feet. But they were relatively minor. It should take planting of a couple extra trees or moving a couple extra trees. 5, if the fencing along the west side of the dog run area double counts as vehicular use area screening, option B, then the fencing shall meet the ornamental metal fence requirements of the zoning ordinance. The applicant indicated it likely won't. It'll likely just be chain link, so they'll then need to use a different screening option for that clubhouse parking area along the southwest corner of the property, which they're aware of and are fine with. And then finally, 6, the applicant shall file a certified survey map to dedicate the right-of-way for the proposed public roadways heading north from Spring Street. The items that you got in your packet had a lot more comments in them if you read through, and the site plan that I passed out today is actually revised due to some of those comments, because there is a potential request for financial incentives from the village, from the applicant for the public infrastructure. We ask that they look at some of their pavement widths and some of their parking counts to try to reduce those where they're able to, just so we're not overbuilding infrastructure that the village is then incentivizing. So they remove some ancillary parking along the north side of the property, some of the center drive aisles. We kind of reduced down to a more minimal pavement width. And then the western Carrington Boulevard, instead of being a boulevarded section, will kind of go down to a normal collector street cross-section, which was in the tax incremental financing plan that the CDA and Village Board approved late last year. With that, in terms of a fiscal analysis for my last point, let me find my page here. The assessor estimated the total project value about $74 million. The estimated taxable value per acre is about $3 million, and net value per acre, taking public road replacement costs into account, is just under $3 million an acre. The public to private ratio is about 42-1, and 40-1 is net positive. That means they are contributing more taxes than they need to maintain the adjacent public infrastructure, and indicates the project long-term taxable value will support its fair share of their requirements. The ratio also includes Spring Street, which the village does not pay to maintain or reconstruct. I included the Spring Street reconstruction in it because as a wider street, we'd like to locate more valuable development to help support, our other taxing jurisdictions there. But ultimately, the ratio is actually better than what we're presenting here because ultimately the village is not paying to replace Spring Street in that stretch. So it was actually closer, like 100-1 when you take out Spring Street, which is a full arterial cross section out there. The applicant submitted its pro forma to RCEDC for review to see if it qualifies for tax incremental financing. The property, as we said, lies within TID 6. If RCEDC and the village's financial advisor, Ellers, determine that the applicant meets the BUD 4 test, the CDA and the village board may review and approve a potential development agreement with the developer. And if there are any substantial changes to the site plan above the kind of administrative site plan levels that we've set per ordinance, after they go through that financial review, sometimes there are and sometimes there aren't. They would have to come back to you all to see the site plan reapproved if there were those substantial changes. So just to make sure you all know that you're not approving something and that it's disappearing if there are changes after the fact. With that, we recommend approval of the application subject to the conditions I went through.
Okay.
The applicant's here to walk through their own stuff as well.
Okay. Any questions of Sam or staff?
Just one quick question, Sam, just to make sure I've got the record straight. So basically, we can ignore what was in the binder, jump to this handout that was sitting here. So the conditions now are just down to the 6 then that you list on page 6 and 7 of your.
That's correct, yep. But that was really between last Friday when we gave you all the packets and today. There was a couple lighting conditions and other stuff in there where they just got us the information that we asked for, bike racks and stuff like that. So we were able to remove those and redo it. And then the site plan changes regarding pavement widths and parking, those were the bigger chunk at the end that we removed as well.
And the 6 conditions that are left were amongst the conditions that were in the binder, but it's
Correct.
just a smaller subset now.
That's exactly right.
And these seem to be all fairly straightforward
Yeah,
conditions.
we feel comfortable at a staff level. I mean, it's, like I said, a couple trees here and there, odds and ends like that, fencing. So we can review those, and none of them would qualify for major site plan changes for you all.
All right, thanks.
Any other comments or questions?
Not at this time.
Robin, were you just going to?
Craig, do you want to come up and say anything?
Switch over?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dustin, if you switch over to the other presentation.
Thank you for asking me back up, and I was wondering if I do want to say anything. We're about in our 4th year of getting to know you all, and so now just going through this presentation seems a little bit postmortem. But if you would just pull it up, I would just like to share primarily to move to the final site plan. Just some of the aspects of it is what we're looking forward to. I think one thing too is when we did Seasons at Mount Pleasant on Braun Road and 31, and of course we've got the 201 units that are waiting that we think we can get going yet this next spring. And then of course the Seasons at Spring Street. So over 800 units is what we're proposing, in the process of doing. And again, just thank you. We love the community. We see the great things you're doing, the addition of Microsoft and others. I mean, for us, we have just so enjoyed working with the planning staff and appreciate you considering this. So basically just jumping right into, I won't spend any time of like who we are. Do you have the clicker? Clicker's here. Great. We've been through this before. We're all residential. We've been around for 40 years. And again, we're a long-term holder of our assets, consistently putting money, capital back into every community that we own. So a few that we shared before over in Madison, we have quite a few communities. We've done a lot of mixed use that have been a lot of fun to do. Near Epic over there, right downtown Madison, we have a mid-rise 10-story, the Domain. Just some ideas of in the Junction and Menominee Falls, going with that flat roof. We've done some of that. That won a few awards for its design. And then we've got a very traditional that we show here in Cedarburg. So, yeah, our grouping, as I said, we were at 400 people in the company, and just a great corporate culture by some of our leadership. Again, the site plan, we're about 6 miles from Seasons at Mount Pleasant at Highway 31 and Braun Road. about a 12, 13-minute drive, and we absolutely are comfortable with that, the investment, because we almost view it as a total different market, because even that drive time and the amount of people on the north side and people going to Milwaukee, it's a much easier drive. So we just are so pleased with the site. It's a nice flat site. You don't find a lot of those these days. That really helps things. And again, we got our approval last September for the RM2 moderate density, and we just, as I mentioned previously, we slowed down due to all the cost increases and the TID 7. I know we were the leader in the TID 6 and appreciate the Mount Pleasant working with us on that so substantially. And same here, or not same here, Avenir took the charge and will, as Sam mentioned, as making this project work. We've got our submittal in for a TIF request and look forward to working with you on that. So just show everyone, again, our clubhouse is really almost 6,000 square feet, and it's just a fantastic representative of the community. Everything is modern grade stainless steel plank flooring, quartz countertops, and individual entrances. So these are almost condo-like that are for rentals. Just a view of the fabulous outside setting, grilling, pool, and some of the other amenities that are in the clubhouse. So Sam shared here kind of and this is actually his site plan, might be a day or two updated more than our own. But again, just the unit counts, we have 10% one bedrooms, 20% two bedrooms, 40% one bedrooms, 40% two bedrooms, and then 10% three bedrooms. So we really have that cross section and have just found these communities just attract all renter groups. So with that, I will just answer any questions you may have, or I'll take a seat.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, you're the same company that just 10 minutes ago we were considering an extension
Yeah.
of a, put a project on hold because of costs and
Yeah.
factors going up, and
Right.
15 minutes later, you're asking us to approve a new project, which is, fine, but
Yeah.
just please educate me. What's your degree of optimism that this project that we're now talking about is going to go forward in a diligent, timely fashion versus the one that was just put on hold?
Sure. Well, the original, the one that was just put on hold, again, was the 9 acres that's right adjacent to the Seasons at Mount Pleasant. And we went through the whole year of planning, and we ended up with a fully approved site plan last year. Particularly what happened, and I think Commissioner Washburn said it so well, is that starting last March, of course, where we started ramping up in interest rates. So we experienced from last March to, just really 2 months ago, that it's generally been halted at 450 basis points in the interest rates. Cost up 30%. So when we went to bid the project last fall, it just became, even with the maximum TIF that would be inside of TID 6, because we need stronger rents, we have higher costs, but the TID helped us with Seasons at Mount Pleasant. And so the difference was, as we came into the fall, we hit the worst of the worst, both with the highest costs and the highest interest rates. They've even come down a little bit on the 10-year right now on interest rates. So we're fully engaged in the Braun Road 2 for going forward. We have that market study coming back in about 2 weeks, and we're going to work to hopefully get that thing ready, fully lined up for next spring. So we expect to do them both. It's just last year, we canceled 3 projects that we had right at the doorstep, and fortunately 2 of them we were able to hold our contract, and we're moving forward in other communities. So that's what occurred. And on this one, this is TID 7. So that's why we have our application in. We do need a substantial TIF because costs are still up there. Rents are improving. That's a real bright spot. But again, the interest rates that are holding us back too. So we're moving forward such that with the landowner here that we plan to, purchase the land and be ready for next spring on both of these projects.
So the biggest difference is, well, it seems to me that it's the difference in, you're in 2 different TID districts, which is a factor, and then the fact that the land and the owners are different, but the rest of your costs, interest rates, construction costs, labor are common to both.
Yep.
But you're confident this one will get up and running then?
I'm confident that both of them will.
Okay.
That's why we asked for the extension. That's why that's that story of the last 9 to 12 months of what has happened to us and others. But ultimately, right now, again, that having our own general contractor, we're able to rebid often and see where things are at. And we do think we're down here. We're inside this new TID. And on both projects, we plan on them going next spring.
Well, I hope, obviously, everyone here hopes that happens, and, you know, it's just, it's so curious to have the same person putting something on hold and going forward on a different one at the same time, so.
Craig hit on it, but I just want to put a button on it. The three-story product has underground parking. Parking structures are extremely expensive, especially like compared, you know, that's concrete, that's a lot more, you know, stuff as compared to stick-built buildings and stuff like that. So completely different ball game as far as costs go. So just wanted to put a button on that one.
All right,
That's a big
thanks.
difference.
Yeah, both of them, and the work that all of you have done to set this up to be able to attract the housing, because especially with Ellers and all the professional advice that the village gets, I mean, it came to the point last year with our costs, the rents we could charge, the interest rates, and the maximum TIF, and it still didn't even make sense. So that's where it's shifted somewhat and is getting back into line. The increasing rents is helping. The obviously new TID up at the Spring Street area, all those things kind of come together. And it was just it was a bad 9 months, but you know what? We were optimistic we'd be in this position.
And kind of following up on that, Craig, if you don't mind, I drive by the Seasons probably 6 times a day, so it's in my neighborhood. And I always see each building goes up, and the next thing I know, there's flower pots and chairs on the balconies and cars everywhere. I've noticed the rec center is always used, and I know, I think it was Mother's Day, there were a couple of big parties there. You know, the parking lot was full. The pool looks wonderful. I am wondering if we get any kind of seasons passes, not having a pool, just kidding. But I guess I'm curious, are your rental rates in the Seasons still pretty good, still up there? And I know at one point you were renting in the high 90s.
The Seasons, you know, the absorption, that's one of the things we've found as a company. We did so many 3-story over parking for years upon years, and now we're just, this is not only a community and a style design that attracts a lot more people, but when you bring on one 20-unit building at a time versus a 80-unit building, you know, you suddenly, you know, you fill them up one at a time. I'd say the absorption has been very strong, 16 to 18 a month, so we're able to just keep absorbing them. And we've had rent increases. I think the projection on Mount Pleasant was about $14.50, and the rent is up about $225 to $250, which that's another factor. You know, with costs up 30%, it can just wipe out some of that stuff. But you know, everything kind of coming together. I think it answers your question, Commissioner, is that it looks better this spring than it, or this summer than it certainly did last fall.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question about your business. First of all, we appreciate you coming to Mount Pleasant and considering Mount Pleasant. We really welcome you and appreciate you. You mentioned that your business was founded in 1984. My question is, all the development that you are bringing to Mount Pleasant, they are condo-style rental leases. Is that your main business, or are you also in a single-family home business and everything? Because we have approved quite a few developments over the last maybe couple of years for the rental and condo. Like I said, we appreciate that. Obviously, your business model must show that there's a demand, and I'm assuming your occupancy rate is pretty high, 90% or so. But it's where I'm trying to get is, people have been asking, some residents have been asking me, because I'm also a trustee, saying is, why aren't we focusing on the single-family home? So what's your business model, and what's your outlook on that?
Yeah, in our 40 years, we've certainly done a wide range of things. When I first came to the company, we did condominium conversions, we did condominiums ground up. We never did single-family homes. We had a great management group, and again, we had our own construction group that we've continued to grow. So, at certain points, we looked at a couple different sites here. We were considering some more of the row house design that you saw in the one project over in Madison. We've done that, the townhomes, and again, there's so many opportunities here. We see ourselves in rental. We've been through that whole cycle of condos, and it's a great concept, but on the other side of the equation, it can be very difficult to execute well, and glad to expound on that sometime, but it is very difficult to do. But that being said, we've done literally everything from a two-family to a high-rise downtown Milwaukee. So we've done the gamut. We're focused. That's where we were doing the 3- and 4-story buildings, almost all custom. And then we started doing the Seasons about 5 years ago. Another development group brought it into our company, and we just love what it brings as a community. It's medium density, 10 to 12 units and so forth. But we have capability of doing other things. We've looked at some other things here in Mount Pleasant, and we'll certainly consider them.
Thank you.
I would think that's why your project is so successful, though. As a rental project, we know, for those of us with real estate background, that with interest rates as they are, the price of housing as high as it got, people really, in all different demographic and economic groups, don't have as many choices as they would like for housing. And this development reminds them of a community. And the 2-story building, keeping it lower, all the amenities that are available to it as well, makes it a very, very home-like, comfortable place to live. And I have a couple of friends that ended up in communities like this after the housing market went way up, thinking they'd be there for a year, build a house, keep going. And with the interest rate increase, they're still there 3 years later, and their kids are there, and they're enjoying it, and they're loving it, and they're just going to keep staying. And with all the amenities, they find it very easy to live there. So I can see why it's very popular, and in your model as strongly as it is.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Craig.
Okay.
Any other questions for Craig?
Oh, nice, sit down.
Okay. Any public comment on this? Okay. Then I would be looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve, are we approving both of these, or just the Spring Street Site Plan Review, SP 23-14?
Correct.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? Call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Craig. Next, we'll go to Ordinance 13-2023, a zoning map amendment for 2217 Racine Street. Zoning map amendment ZMA 23-6. Robin.
That's me. Hello. Hope you guys are all enjoying the beautiful weather we have for race day.
I know, it's kind of fun to watch them go by.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I always will take 1.01% of credit for kind of kicking off the initial conversations to bring Tour of America's Dairyland here to Mount Pleasant, and then carried basically 99.9% of the muscle after that. So, but it is still kind of cool to see, and especially here and highlighting our campus park. But anyway, that is not this. This is Ordinance 13-2023, zoning map amendment for 2217 Racine Street, ZMA 23-6. It's to amend the zoning map from RL2, which is low density residential 2, to B1, neighborhood business. The parcel was assigned an incorrect zone in the 2020 zoning code update due to the former RCH district designation. That is redevelopment conservation housing district. And it had been a ground floor business, second floor residential for decades. So we just basically are cleaning that up. Staff got a application for a business occupancy permit for this, realized that the zoning didn't match, figured that it was our fault, and then with the owner's permission, we initiated the amendment free of charge. And we just want to change it so that everything is straight with the building. Obviously, when you just took one look at the building, you realize that that was the type of building it was. And we just wanted to set that straight. B1 is our sort of smallest business district. It allows, basic sundry stores, personal service stores, basic first floor office. One of the limitations is that any of the, in a B1 district, any of the uses need to be 1,500 square feet or smaller. The ground floor of this is 1,300 square feet. So it basically means that small local businesses be in that footprint. So normally you don't get very many chains at that square footage. So, and you get there's a lot of these in that area of town, and a lot of them have local businesses in there, including some that have kind of made regional renown, like, Sap Sap, which is very delicious, so I hear. Any questions?
Robin, did the applicant that kind of kicked this off, was their use did their use work within the zoning that you're
Yes.
talking about? So
I think they were doing a personal services, like a beauty salon, something like that. I cannot pull it right off the top of my head, but I do remember that it was applicable within the zoning.
Okay.
So it used to be a restaurant. I'm pretty sure that's not what they're opening.
All right.
Any other questions of Robin? Any public comment? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 13-2023, zoning map amendment for 2217 Racine Street, zoning map amendment ZMA-23-6.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? None. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I did figure it out. They're running kind of like a sort of small event rental space, like a party hall, something like that. So you could do it like a banquet or something like that. That's an allowed use in there. So they're going to basically rent out some of the kitchen equipment and stuff. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, 4330 90th Street, site plan review, SP 2316.
So the applicant applied for site plan review for the first phase of the Microsoft data center development. The application is for the master site plan only. They'll have to return for site plan for review for each of the individual buildings or areas on the site plan. The village approval of this application in coordination with an approved grading plan by the Public Works Department will allow Microsoft to begin mass grading across the 215-acre southern portion of the property. At this time, then they will finish the detailed designs of the individual buildings and be back in front of you. So all of our comments relate really to the future applications that'll need to come forward, including a fully dimensioned and scaled plan showing parking, driveway, and loading facilities before we issue any building permits, outdoor lighting plans, landscaping and screening, as well as detailed site plan review in general before the village will issue any building permits for any of the individual buildings on site. But this will allow them to go out and start grading the property, cut in the stormwater ponds, and with some level of certainty that the next time they're in front of the Plan Commission, they won't need to move a stormwater pond from one side of the site to the other side of the site, kind of thing, which is nice. In terms of the comp plan, the current comp plan amendment is also through the process in terms of removing the north-south roadway through the site. That'll be back in front of you after the village board's public hearing next Monday, so that'll be back in front of you next month as well. And then finally, in regards to some of the conditions we had on their certified survey map, we actually received the deed restriction from them yesterday, which looked fine for the isolated natural resource area that's they'll be protecting in the middle of the site, along with the rest of the creek restoration that they announced through Pike Wind. So just checking off the boxes and letting them kind of do things in a phased approach here. Obviously, 215 acres of land is a lot, so this isn't kind of our standard application procedure, but this should allow them to kind of get out there and do a large amount of grading before anything else happens in terms of final building plans and stuff. There will be more information, from my understanding, at tomorrow's public information meeting regarding plan renderings and things like that, but you all will see those detailed plans in front of you later date. So With that, pretty straightforward. I can answer any technical questions you may have. We've had a little bit of a back and forth with them on fencing, but other than that, it's been pretty straightforward and easy, and they made the requested updates that we had per the fencing ordinance. So no issues, no special conditions or anything like that from staff, and we recommend approval.
Any questions of Sam? Go ahead.
Sam, just educating me a little bit on the process and logistics. And so this master plan gives, then the thought process is that when they come in for building, before they can get a building permit, they have to have a detailed site plan?
Yeah, for the individual areas or buildings that they'll be constructing at that time. But because the site is so large and they're not going through a standard subdivision procedure where they're cutting it up into multiple lots, there's not a very good route for them to go. I mean, we don't have very many, like 215 acre parcels in the village that aren't further subdivided. So the way we opted to move forward was to have them make a site plan application to you all, just so they could have that level of comfort. Really, my biggest worry was that they would get a grading permit and start grading, which they don't technically need your approval for, but if there were any site plan changes that the Plan Commission did request at that time, I would hate to see them have to cut in a stormwater pond in a completely different portion of the site. So this allows them to have some level of comfort that we know where the buildings are going to be generally, where the parking is going to be, all that kind of stuff. There might be tweaks to this. I would expect that there would be tweaks to this as they move through final detailed design, and you'll see the actual landscaping and building plans when those come through. But this just kind of allows them to keep rolling out on the site while they finish up some of their designs.
Yeah, I think in my, I don't know, time on the commission, I think this is the first time I've seen this master site plan review step.
Yeah.
So and I understand the practicality of giving the two sides agreeing to a concept before they start doing that kind of subdivision work. Do either the village's statutes or the state statute lay out the steps for this master site plan?
No, this is they're just applying under the normal site plan procedures that we have per ordinance. We're not amending them or making them up or anything else. And we'd prefer that they don't go through like a detailed master plan development type procedure, which we have, because we can actually accommodate their entire site plan under our existing zoning ordinances. So a lot of communities would address this through like a master plan development or a plan unit development type approval process, but then anytime in the future that they'd want to amend their site plan, they'd have to go through both a zoning and a site plan process just to amend a parking area or something like that. So our preference is that we kind of stick to our normal policies and procedures as much as possible, and with the acknowledgement that they'll just have to come back more frequently than they might otherwise, which they were happy to roll with as well.
So as far as this commission goes, once we approve this master site plan, this commission won't see another site plan in connection with the buildings going up, will we?
Yes, you will. That's what I'm saying, is you'll see multiple come back to you. Yep. So when they want to start construction, they'll be back in front of you all. Landscaping, screening, all that kind of stuff.
All right, thanks.
I was going to ask for a point of clarification to them. What's the relationship between this and the master plan amendment? Is this conditional based on that, or does it connect it or anything? I think that would be helpful.
I mean, it would have to be conditional based on that. So, I mean, if that, for whatever reason, the plan commission or the village board denies that master plan amendment, we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But, I mean, I think the risk of that is pretty low at this point.
Okay.
But if their individual site plans were substantially different than this master site plan that we presumably approved today,
Those ones will take precedence.
so from your perspective, there would not have to be two steps backwards to amend this master plan. The individual site plans would become the operative document without
Correct.
going back to this.
Yep, that's exactly what we were trying to avoid.
Okay.
So those updated ones will become the final ones subject to building permit.
I would just ask then the staff if any of those individual site plans down the road vary materially from this original master site plan, if you could at least call that out so there's a record and we understand I understand this is going to develop, this won't end up looking the same way, but just call that out for us so we know the differences from what we approved today.
Definitely.
All All right, thanks.
That'll be helpful for us as well, so.
And it all remains within the same boundaries.
Correct, the same total, 315 acres or so. And they'll have to be back for the entire north area, which you see on the left-hand side of your screen today as well. So there'll be plenty of times where Microsoft will be back in front of you all. But yeah, typically this would be handled through a subdivision process, like I said, which typically comes with a grading plan, and then people come back and have individual building permits. But because this is kind of a unique animal, this is about the closest we can do to mirror those while keeping them under the normal ordinances.
Good.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with stepping it out this way, Tom. Because of the enormity of the project, the bottom line is if they have approval to start building stormwater ponds from village engineering and staff through their developers agreement, then the impervious surfaces have been taken into account, the engineering calculations have been done so that that's going to be accurate, and they have great weather for it right now, and a good contractor base out there. I guess my question as we go down the road would be, are you opening this up to contractors locally for your groundwork and your and so forth? But I don't have a problem with working through it this way. They've had their TIAs done, so you know where your entrances have to be, what your traffic counts are. Their traffic counts aren't bad at all for a facility this size. We aren't going to have complaints from the community that we're adding too much traffic to Highway KR. I think that can hold it. So I don't have a problem with this at all, and think it's smart to take the baby steps, let them get moving, and finalize it. I will have questions as time goes on. I see some chain link fence and things on here that I'm not sure how that's going to look at the street level, but we'll want to know more, obviously.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of landscaping and screening where you can see around the site. They've identified the types of landscaping and screening from the ordinance that they're going to apply in those areas. So it looks, as per this site plan, the landscaping and screening will be outside the fencing, and then some of the security fencing will be on the inside of that. So you'll have all those details when they come back. But our expectation is most of that security fencing would be pretty tough to see behind that, particularly as it grows in over time.
And I just want to clarify, I'm not suggesting that there's going to be a problem. There is a problem doing it. It's just that this is the first time we've seen this step process. So I just wanted to make sure I understood what the procedures were and what the forward reviews will be. It's not that I'm anticipating there's going to be a problem. But I just hope the Microsoft people appreciate what a good staff that you all are working with. These fellows really do have the developers and owners, all the interested parties' interests at heart, and they're very practical, and we're lucky to have them, and you're lucky to work with them.
And don't forget recognizing the gals for the summer. We have Emily, our planning intern, here today as well. So
Of
the
course.
guys now have a gal.
Yeah, you'll hear from her in a
Probably an
little bit.
improvement.
Thankfully, yeah. So obviously we have a lot of people from Microsoft here today. If you'd like to ask them any other questions or hear from them, Claude is also here in the corner as well. So he's
Just
our
for-
TID 5 project director.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, just for record, this is the same process we follow with Foxconn folks.
Okay.
All they're asking to do here today is so they can get moving on the dirt in the stormwaters to get those, because it is a big site, 215 acres. But this is actually very similar to the same process we followed with Foxconn. They moved 861 acres of dirt at the same time. So it's virtually the same process. Then they came back in for every structure that gets moving forward. So it's virtually, this is not the first time you've done it. Maybe the first time you've seen it.
Right.
But it's not the first time the village has done it.
I think at least the two of us, it's the first time we, on the commission,
No
have
question,
gone
that's
through
probably
this with
true,
Fox.
but-
Yeah.
We've done it.
Okay.
Obviously, I didn't really touch on the fiscal impact, but there is a development agreement that the village signed with the applicant for $1 billion worth of investment across the entire property. So this is the first phase of that, but it certainly behooves the village that the quicker they want to get going, the quicker they are generating value on the site too. So it's one of the reasons why we're trying to keep them, everyone moving at as quickly as possible.
Excellent.
With that, turn it over.
And I guess I'd welcome representatives from Microsoft to come up, and if we can get your name and address, please.
Yes, Morgan, Ireland. I'm going to use Microsoft address if that's okay. 1 Microsoft Way, Redmond, Washington, 98052. I don't actually have any formal statements prepared. I just really want to thank all of you for your time and absolutely thank the, community development team. Sam has been, I'm sure bombarded with questions and comments and meetings and lots of requests from our team. So it has been nothing but a pleasure working with everybody from the village of Mount Pleasant, Racine County, the community so far. We're really excited about this project. We're really excited to be here. And I think, Nancy, to your point, we will have our construction team and our supplier team at the community info session tomorrow. So we'll be happy to answer any questions from you all or from local contractors on our procurement process and yeah, kind of next steps as we are very excited to move this project forward. I met with Sam the day after the development agreement was made public. We went through I did my research on the code, looked at what is our path forward to enable us to kickstart this project, and certainly to start moving dirt before the winter sets in. I'm a Wisconsin native. I know how winter works around here.
We have winter and sun, which may be a little different for you all now.
So this kind of phased approach, and it maybe phased is the wrong word because we do consider this development on the south half of the property to be phase one. We don't have plans yet for the north half of the site, but we know that it is in the development agreement and we are going to meet the conditions of the development agreement. But right now the focus is really just on the south portion of the property, south of the Lamparrot Creek corridor. And in terms of the phasing, again, trying to get this master site plan, I see this as kind of planning a stake in the ground of what we anticipate the layout of the buildings to be and the layout of the entrances and the stormwater management and the substation area. All of the other detailed design is very much a work in process and is changing by the day. So we are very much on the same page in terms of subsequent submittals of the detailed site plan that includes the lighting plan, the landscaping plan, parking, all of that you guys will see from us as we move forward with the design. So,
Is this project similar to projects at Microsoft data centers that you've done elsewhere?
I would say yes.
And that would minimize, unexpected surprises or glitches then.
So we have over 200 data centers worldwide. They are, without exception, large facilities. And so this, I would say, is pretty typical for us in terms of the scale and the process that we are following. I don't know if there's any more detail that I don't know if that hits the mark, but.
Morgan, tomorrow, are you going to have any human resources information? Because if you'll remember, the night that President DeGroote made the announcement about you coming, mm-hmm. There were people here for another item that were a little bit, we had a lot of public here. And what touched me about that night more than anything is the fact that there was a woman here that was horribly opposed to another item, and she was ready to, and the first thing she said when she got up to speak was, maybe I can get my grandkids back home. So I have a couple resumes in my inbox right now, and people are like, where do we send these, Nancy? So hopefully tomorrow we can gather some information in that regard as well.
We do have folks from, I believe from HR and also operations folks from our Chicago data centers. And I know they are, I don't know if this is blasphemy to say, but they're recruiting, they're hiring actively. We're a couple years away from hiring for this campus, but we will have resources on hand tomorrow to address those types of questions.
Terrific.
Excellent. Are the three of you going to be our team going forward? or
Oh,
is it
there
gonna
will be
intermix?
many more of us. No, and we have we have Paul and Diane and Bob here from our community engagement and investments team. We have Ryan here, who's from our construction team, and Andrew from design. I'm from our land development group. All of us will be at the community info session tomorrow, as well as, oh goodness, probably another 15 to 20 of us. So we have a lot of subject matter experts coming in from all over the place to, really try to comprehensively answer questions from the community. So,
We really want to thank you too for that effort, because one of the things that I think became apparent to us in the last couple of years, we've had all this conversation over our transparency and what's going on and what is it and who is it, and for this kind of event to be put on, heavily broadcast, heavily, the public is heavily invited, as well as certainly anybody in municipal government. I think that really says a lot about your company, your philosophy, your internal philosophy, and that's even more exciting, is to know we have that kind of a wonderful company coming in with that feeling, to have all these people coming into town, our little town. I know the bike race was really big, but, to bring 20 of you all in is great.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, thank you so much. And
it means a lot to us too. We're really, again, excited to be here, and I think, it's been an incredibly warm welcome for us from day one in Mount Pleasant and the greater community. So we're happy to do it, and we're all looking forward to tomorrow.
I would just offer a suggestion that I think you'll be asked questions about permanent full-time hiring at the facility, how many people you expect, the wages. I think that will be a point of emphasis on the public's questions. So hopefully whoever of your team.
We are prepared
Okay,
to answer
good.
those questions. Yep.
All right.
Excellent. Anything more from Morgan?
Yeah,
or
actually,
anything else?
Paul wanted to say something. You guys have probably seen Paul. He's done some of our, media.
So Paul Inglis, also One Microsoft Way from Redmond, Washington. I wanted to mention at the meeting tomorrow, if you attend, we hope you will attend, you're going to see renderings of like what the site might look like, what buildings may look like. I want to caveat that. That's what we know today, or what we envision today. I understand that there will be many more meetings such as this where you will actually approve what the final buildings will look like. So you don't want to, as you look at those renderings, go, gosh, these guys are like moving way ahead of us, or that they're really like being presumptive in terms of what they can do. This is just to give people a sense of like what things might look like on the campus. So just want to make sure that you don't walk in and go, I didn't approve any of this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So it'll be like 3D renderings with different perspectives. We'll have kind of a bird's eye view, 3D bird's eye view of the layout of the buildings. Very much, conceptual, just based on what you guys see here. But I think it really helps people
Visualize.
bring to life what it's going to look like.
Think of them as a conversation starter.
There you go.
Right? So, including yourself, so that you can start to come in with thoughts and questions and ideas of your own. Then you can apply them as you see the actual building plans and the more developed site plans.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Brown.
No, again, I don't have any question, but I want to add to all the comments. Number one, on this plan, I think coming from the background of engineering, although I'm not civil engineering, but this is the only way to go there. You have to make the master plan to have all the grading and all the, before you go into the details of each building. So I don't see any other, and like Commissioner Van Beckham mentioned, that I think this not only is the right way, but this reassure the community that it's on track, it's progressing,
Good
instead
point.
of what's going on. Especially with the last 5 years or so history of another project in that land, so people are kind of gun shy, kind of hesitant. So this really assured the community large out there. And as an engineer, I can't expect anything less than to have the master plan. regarding the community comment, everybody else has mentioned, again, my hope is that from the community point of view, I'm expecting that you have an open house tomorrow, people go and come, and they will be rendering, like you said, presentation. But at the end of the day, most of the people in the community, all they want to know is, what's the time frame, how many jobs are going to be created, are they full-time or part-time? Unless you are into that business of the data centers or the technical, it's just a great rendering for them. So my humble expectation and request is have your team answer those questions. At the same time, I will also put a little caution at the risk of, there could be a couple of people who have some political agenda and they might want to put their spin on that. Again, how many of the jobs are going to be to fill with this demographics or that demographic? It happens all the time. But I'm sure that your team is more than well prepared and you've been through that. And again, we are very excited. We're very excited and thank you.
Thank you all. We welcome any and all questions, and I feel confident that our team is well prepared to answer and address those. We will also have flyers with an email address for anyone that has follow-up questions, and so we will be fielding questions and providing responses, not just at the meeting, but there is opportunity for continued discussion afterwards, if there's something that we can't answer on the spot.
Yeah. And again,
And there will be questions we won't be able to answer.
Yeah.
And again, at the risk of repeating myself, because we went through recent election, but these are the only two main questions that I have been personally asked: how many jobs are going to be created, and a political question: are they going to be? I hate to use the word, but jobs for this kind of demographics, that kind of demographics company. But mostly,
Economic.
how many jobs are going to be created? When? Because they don't want to wait another 2 years or 3 years to find out. So that's the number.
And we'll be able to talk about specifically
that
the
you-
types of jobs that will be offered. And in fact, as Morgan mentioned, some of our operations colleagues from Chicago are coming up, and so they'll be able to give direct, firsthand knowledge of the type of work that goes on inside a data center. So we think that'll be helpful. Honestly, in terms of the numbers of jobs, we've got sort of ranges that we expect, but until we get to sort of final site plan and understand sort of the size and the scopes of the buildings, and then even as we then design what's going to go on the north portion of the parcel, that will also impact the numbers of jobs. So it's a range at this point, and a lot of it is dependent on what we come to agreement on in terms of the final scope and size of the campus.
All right.
I'm wide-eyed because of that huge bike leg that just went by. That was like a big one. Sorry, we're over here watching you. The bikes are in the back, and we're like, everybody's going, you're okay.
If I could ask just one question quick. Do data centers, since you have them, quite a few of them all scattered about, do they tend to generate any ancillary businesses in their neighborhood? Do they tend to bring other types of businesses? Oh, I want to be located by one of these facilities, in a general fashion.
Yeah, certainly, like the support services for the data center, yes. And then you also see, technology jobs in general springing up from people, learning more about IT, learning more about the cloud services that are offered. And part of what we do from a community investment perspective is invest in training in those areas. We have this idea that, if we're going to build a data center that's delivering some of the most advanced technology, in the world, the people that live around there should have the ability to take advantage of that. So we do invest in skills training and business incubation to support those sort of ancillary businesses. And at the meeting tomorrow, we'll have people that will be there to talk about those sorts of investments that we make, including our friends who are with the Tech Spark group that have done a bunch of work up in northern Wisconsin in the Green Bay, Appleton area to develop those sorts of programs. And so those are the sorts of things that we envision being able to do around this campus that will encourage that sort of development.
I'll just mention our Mr. Batia is the local expert on the technical college and all of its benefits and what it can offer, so.
That's another, being a trustee at the Gateway, I think it's great for the whole community from any angle you look for, from the training, like people are, they're talking about the job.
Yeah.
Because the folks out there, that's what they're looking at, but they're not looking at all the other benefits of the community, from the technical college point of view. It's going to open up, it's going to be a catalyst to start and enhance many programs, which is going to benefit other people also in the community. Absolutely.
We are already in conversations with your friends at Gateway College. In fact, we have there's the tour yesterday. We have another one as soon as we're done with this meeting today. So
absolutely.
Those conversations are starting.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Any other questions
Thank
or
you.
comments? Any public comment? If not, let's make way for the heavy equipment to get in here.
Move to
Sure.
approve.
I'll second that.
We all wanted to make that.
We all proudly make the motion to approve. We all proudly second as well. I don't know if that's in Robert's
We
rules,
have a
but
second, third, fourth, and a fifth.
There you
or
go.
I was
whatever.
about to say, can we have 5 motion and 5 seconds?
yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
Anyway.
Let's do it, make sure we do it right, so
Let's
we
be
don't
nice to the
screw it
people
up
who
on
are taking
top
our
of it.
minutes, please.
That would be our luck, right?
All right, we have a motion and many seconds. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Big aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Microsoft, thank you.
See you tomorrow.
All right, moving on. Next on the agenda, 4530 Old Green Bay Road, Certified Survey Map, CSM 237.
Oh, I'm just going to be for emotional support. I'm going to take this time to introduce our intern, Emily Wagner. She's here for the summer, and she is going to be presenting this report on the CSM. So she's just completed her first year at UWM Planning School, and we're really excited to have her. So go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I would love to address this CSM with you all. Let me know if I'm a little quiet or anything. I'm just getting used to this. So right now we are looking at 4530 Old Green Bay Road, CSM 23-7. Essentially, the story behind this is Michael and Monica Couchier wish to subdivide their parcel at this address. The application proposes dividing this parcel equaling just over 1 acre into 2 lots. Lot 1 is approximately about a 1/4 acre big, and it fronts Old Green Bay Road. Lot 2 is about 0.64 acres, surrounded by unplatted lands to the parcels south, east, and west. This proposal includes an existing garage that the applicant plans to raise. So overall, the village staff, recommend that the Plan Commission move forward with recommending the approval of 4530 Old Green Bay Road, CSM 23-7. To the village board, subject to the conditions for approval. So I'm just going to run through those conditions really quickly. So if you look at the image displayed on your folks' screens, we can see here that this is a flag-shaped lot. This is a consideration that staff had to take in mind in terms of creating equal lots, essentially. That's kind of like our overall goal, is to create right angles within lots. So when we get an odd-shaped lot like this, we do have to make additional considerations. So we ultimately determined that this lot will not cause undue hardship, so we, in essence, are allowing it. This is allowed under statute 74-2.9, exceptions and modifications. And here we believe that the application meets the 4 requirements for this ordinance. So that's just one consideration we had to keep in mind. Moving forward to the conditions for approval, staff recommends the following conditions. The applicant shall modify the CSM to show the owners of the record of abutting unplatted lands, so that's those lands to the south, east, and west. Secondly, we ask that the applicant shall modify the CSM to show the location, size, and invert elevation of any existing sanitary or storm sewers, culverts, and drain pipes, the location of manholes, catch basins, hydrants, electric and communication facilities, whether overhead or underground, and the location and size of any existing water and gas mains within the exterior boundaries of the CSM or immediately adjacent thereto. If no sewers or water mains are located on or immediately adjacent to the land division, the nearest such sewers or water mains that might be extended to serve the land division shall be indicated by their direction and distance from the nearest exterior boundary of the CSM and by their size and invert elevation. So here we just want to ensure that sanitary and storm sewers, electric and communication facilities, gas and water mains are all included within this plan to ensure that it is up to code and subject to approval given these conditions. Lastly, we require that the applicant shall submit and receive approval of a grading plan by the Village Public Works Department before the village clerk signs the CSM. So meeting these three requirements, village staff does not see a reason why this application should be denied, but seeing that this is fairly standard procedure, I encourage you all to think on it a little bit, and if you do have any comments or concerns, feel free to address them with me at this point. Thank you.
Wow, very comprehensive. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice job.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was going to add the comment, if that's your presentation as an intern, I can't wait to see what you will do when you are graduate.
Oh, well,
when
thank
you. When you are full-time. Excellent job.
Thank you.
I do have a question for, I don't know who can answer that question. In this map that you have it on the screen, Lot 1 is on the old Green Bay Road top and Lot 2. But then I have another one where Lot 1 is on the right and Lot 1 is on 2, left. And I'm pretty confused about this one.
These are easement details
Yeah, but
on the CSM.
even the easement, but Lot 1 and 2 should be in the same orientation.
Oh, I see, that needs to be, you're right.
Sheet 3.
Am I missing something? Obviously
Oh,
I am.
lot 1,
It still has it says lot 1 has the existing residence on it. It's just confusing. Lot 2 is pointing, those arrows are pointing to that on sheet 3.
Well, here's lot 1 and,
Lot 2 goes all the way down and all the way up.
okay, but this one is Lot 2 is here. So what's confusing me? Maybe I'm the only one confused, I don't want to hold it, but,
Is that sheet 3?
Yeah.
I think it's just very confusing where it says lot 1 is, and it has the existing residence on it. And then,
Yeah.
the arrows are corresponding to lot 2, even though the word is inside the arrows. It is confusing. That should probably be clarified. We could do that.
so I'm not the only one confused.
Yeah, well.
I don't know, maybe I am.
It is correct, Ram. It's just like a zoomed in thing, and
Right.
the actual easement that's being depicted looks very similar to the lot that's being created, but they are labeled appropriately.
It's just a small detail.
The detail didn't confuse me, is the orientation on Lot 1 up on the top, Lot 2, anyway, it's not.
On this one, Ram, lot 2 is written down here in the base of.
This one is okay, the other one,
Okay.
where the,
Lot 2 is all of this and all of this. So in this small detail, what's cut off is the bottom of lot 2.
so something is cut up, because here, the way I saw that, okay, so I see what you're saying is, okay.
Yeah, so it's just the easement detail for the shared driveway.
If this wasn't there, I'll be,
Yeah.
okay, so this is not really
It,
shown properly.
well, it's confusing the way
It's
it's shown.
confusing.
I know what you're saying.
Okay, I just want to make sure that,
Yep.
okay, that's all.
So I had a couple of questions, and I do think that I think Nielsen, Manson, and Barber does need to look at this drawing a little bit. And I don't have a scale, but I guess I'm curious as to why it appears that on lot 1, on the front page, it shows 77 feet along lot 1's frontage and 55 along lot 2's frontage on Old Green Bay Road. But then when you look at the easement detail, it also shows the house only 10 feet off of the property line, and it shows that property line at an angle. So I guess the easement detail is a little bit confusing. But my question is, why on Lot 1 did you not give more room to Lot 1 along the frontage? In other words, why?
Because the other lot needs 55 feet of frontage to be a legal lot.
Oh, it's the 55 feet on Lot 2?
Correct. So they are minimizing and maximizing the lot sizes there.
Will Lot 1 ever be able to have a garage?
Sure.
It says to be raised.
So
Existing
you're going to
garage.
build another garage on Lot 1?
It's going to be an attached garage on the front. I don't know if you would have a copy.
We don't have site plans, and we don't need site plans, so, but that's what's incorporated, Bill, in your, okay. So that's incorporated in their site plan, and
It's
that all
incorporated on their
works?
grading plan.
And it all works for
Yeah.
them? Okay. And then do we have, so they had to dedicate, it looks like, additional public right-of-way with this, right? Because this was such an old survey. So they're dedicating that. And then for a shared driveway agreement, did you guys got one?
Yeah, we got one.
And
Yeah, we
and
just got it
it's
yesterday, so that's why you have it. but-
Satisfactory to y'all?
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
Because this is in the family for now, but,
We make provisions that if whatever goes gets split, there is a driveway agreement ratified now.
good, okay.
If I could, a couple of questions. I read the executive summary, which doesn't talk about any development or anything else happening on these two lots. Given that, why are you requiring a grading plan before a CSM? It's just a lot split between,
So they will be putting a house on the second lot. That's a part of it, as well as any kind of lot division that has a disturbance of over an acre. A grading plan needs to be submitted, and also there is steep sloping on the back of this property. So it would just behoove everybody to have a grading plan for it. So it's just kind of crossing the T's.
Yeah. One of the issues we've received on these, the state has allowed basically lighter rules for CSMs over time. The statutes have kind of repeatedly lightened up the rules. In certain cases, that's created long-term issues across properties when they've been divided by CSM but haven't had approved drainage plans, where people are just dumping like tons of water onto their neighbor's property. And then, of course, Public Works gets dragged in, and it's a whole thing. So it's both in our local subdivision code and a policy by our Public Works Department that they like to see grading plans before these lot divisions, just one-off ones, get approved, because they've dealt with so many long-term issues when someone just cuts off a lot and doesn't move forward with anything else.
so just so I understand then, at least in Mount Pleasant, with every CSM, you're going to require a grading plan regardless of whether the owner who's splitting this property is planning to do anything?
On large scale, yes. It may depend if it's part of a larger like business development. We likely would have that as a separate process, but for these one-off ones, more often than not, yes.
Okay, and then my other question is, you're requiring detail including show existing water and gas mains on immediately adjacent properties. How is this owner to go about locating a main on somebody else's land?
They have the surveyor do it, who coordinates both with We Energy's maps and the local Public Works Department maps that we have on file.
And that's going to be required for every CSM?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's also because we have some zoning ordinances that require the connection to those facilities. And over time, we've seen some people try to essentially get around connecting to public utilities by the CSM, or they'll sell property. And not that this is the case in this individual circumstance, but we've had other property owners who have tried to just cut off properties to sell them and haven't provided that information kind of on the up and up to prospective buyers, who then find out later on that, oh, I now have to extend water main a couple hundred feet in front of my property to the tune of like $100,000 after they've closed on the property. So, we're just trying to avoid those things happening in the future. Thankfully, that's been pretty few and far between, and the people who it's happened to have been able to afford those types of hiccups, but I would hate on a, smaller lot sizes that would happen to someone, so. Yeah, exactly. So it's better for us, even though it does frustrate the surveyor sometimes, it's better for us in terms of land sale procedures, just trying to protect future potential buyers.
Well, and one of the ways of picking some of that up is through the title policy on the existing property, as well as calling Digger's Hotline and have it all marked.
Yeah.
And once you have it all marked, it's there, and that includes sewer, water, storm sewer, every department.
And we have in the past allowed people to forgo that requirement if they provide us a subsequent ALTA with everything shown on it as well. So if they are pulling that ALTA title report, we will accept that in lieu of them showing it on the CSM. So either way is fine with us. We just want to make sure that it's part of the package that a potential buyer has when it's not part of the family, that they're getting all the correct information on the front end.
Gotcha.
I know when I first proposed this with my daughter, I came here to talk with Robin, and then I talked with the engineering department. And they brought me right away the very first day I came. The layout of the sewer and the water and the inverts and everything that's necessary. I'm a retired builder, been doing it 40 years. So I kind of knew the questions to ask. And everybody was very, very helpful, allowed me to see way into this, and as far as the viability, but also the costs.
Well, it helped you anticipate.
It makes it all work. This is how we were able to divide this the way we have to accommodate, my brother is a disabled vet. He is living in the existing house now. This was my parents' property. And we wanted to keep him there. He's there till he dies. That's the deal. And to have my daughter, who is his caregiver, for the house behind, and be allowed to do that actually benefits both of them greatly. She is his daily caregiver. And it just works. It's going to be expensive with the sewer on the other end of the road, on the other side of the street, but it's not insurmountable.
No, I think that putting the grading plans on the early CSMs, requiring that, is very proactive, actually. I can remember cases where on a simple CSM subdivision like this, that didn't require that, not necessarily here in Mount Pleasant, I'm just talking about the other things I've seen over the years, and all of a sudden somebody buys a house or buys this second lot, and they have to dig a $30,000 pond in order to accommodate their stormwater. Whereas in this case, you've got that pitch off the back, you can probably roll it off the back, and
The water's going the way it always has.
I'm just saying-
Here at 61, so the water's still traveling all the way at it.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, in regards to my fellow commissioner's comment too, it may be unusual, we aren't used to seeing it, but I'm glad Sam and Robin are taking that action at this point and requiring it, because it's really a safety feature for the property owner.
Any other questions for Emily?
Great job.
No? All right.
Maybe none for me, but I would just like to thank both Sam and Robin for drawing upon your extensive knowledge and assisting in answering questions. I'm still getting used to things, and
Sure.
it is for sure an honor to be able to present to you folks, and I thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, I would like to make a motion to approve 4530 Old Green Bay Road Certified Survey Map CSM 23-7.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you.
And
Thank
Bill,
you.
you can talk to Sam about some of the follow-up and the timelines, and, because this will go to the board
Monday.
Monday night.
Just, I guess for the record, it's, our recommended approval is subject to the conditions for approval.
Yes, sir, excuse me, I apologize, subject to conditions.
All right.
Second is good on that. Good. All right. Do we want to take a quick 2-minute break?
Sure.
Let's do that just for now.
Yeah, this next applicant deserves a lot of scrutiny, I think.
Yes. We'll reconvene. Moving on. Next on the agenda is 7330 Old Spring Street Certified Survey Map, CSM 23-8.
Your least favorite applicant is here. This is a pretty simple one. We're doing a parking lot repaving project out at the new Parks and Rec office on Old Spring Street. We thought it was a good time as we were going through engineering and design to merge the two existing village-owned parcels under a single parcel. So we don't have to worry about lot line issues or anything like that in terms of following our ordinances, as well as it gets us an updated wetland delineation out there and some odds and ends like that. So just kind of a cleanup effort to merge some two parcels together and update the recorded map for the property. There is really no other issues that we had. Ari Smith did a great job putting the maps together, getting the delineated wetlands, all that kind of stuff. So it's what it is, parcel merge, easy as it gets.
I think there's going to be a lot of questions here.
Sam, do you want to amend your recommendation to delete the subject to conditions for approval since you don't have any?
No, I want you to keep it in there.
Oh,
I'm just kidding, that's fine.
All right.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Subject to all those conditions.
Yeah,
All
there's
right.
tons of conditions. Yeah, no, that's fine, Tom. Whoever makes a motion can remove that part. I'll make sure it's removed off the village board approval come Monday.
Just because we'd be looking for those conditions, as
Yeah,
you can imagine.
yeah.
Searching high and low. All right, so Tom, are you going to make a motion? I'm taking
well,
over.
do you need to open up for any questions, or?
I can do that
Okay.
after that or before?
All right, well, then I would love to make a motion to approve 7330 Old Spring Street Certified Survey Map, CSM 23-8, without any conditions for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments?
Is the applicant approved?
Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here and ready. Just a brief update, obviously, the parks lot reconstruction will happen later this summer. Parking lot reconstruction will happen later this summer, so we'll communicate with the public with the normal paving program schedule that Lisa and her team have been putting out. But it'll be a nice facility when it's all done. We'll have a revised and slightly expanded parking lot for people to park in over to visit our Parks and Rec office, which has been quickly happily successful in terms of renting out to people and things like that. So it'll just be a nice beef up to the amenity. We won't stop there. We'll make long-term improvements, obviously, to the building. But this is the first thing that George and his team wanted to do for the property to upgrade it. And I think I've seen the plans and it looks great. So I'm looking forward to seeing the whole project done.
Good. All right.
Do you vote?
What's that?
Did they vote?
No, we didn't vote.
Oh, we need a second and a vote.
I was the second.
We got a second. This was further discussion.
That was
Gotcha.
just further discussion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Be good with that parking lot.
That's a huge addition, though.
Yes.
That's going to be terrific. Because it is well-used, and I think that's just wonderful as well.
Yep. All right. Yep.
Yeah, that's an important part. The crossing will be, extra parking at the trailhead, as George said, and then the crosswalk will be upgraded nicely so people can feel comfortable. We're taking away some of the overflow parking across the street of people parking on the grass, so people should feel comfortable crossing Old Spring, and hopefully this will help.
All right. Next, we'll move to the Pike River Crossing Final Plat, FSP 23-2.
So this is a plat that you've seen before for a mixed-use neighborhood with 82 moderate-density lots. The village board approved the plat back in 2022, and the applicant has been going through, there was probably 25 conditions on that plat they were trying to get done before they closed on the property. So we approved it with a fair number of conditions. They've been checking those off the list, but one of the areas where they have had probably more coordination than they wanted is with our friendly Department of Transportation at the state level. So why this plat is back in front of you is the Pike River Way connection, which is shown on the very bottom of your screen. That is a connection to 31 there on the plat. And the DOT, because the Plat is adjacent to a state highway, has objecting authority to the Plat when it goes through the Department of Administration and the whole platting process. The DOT objected to the Plat that was submitted because it did not show the extension of Yates Drive all the way down to County Trunk Highway KR, and the DOT is conditioning the Pike River Way short connection there on 31 to the full connection. There's an existing MOU and some other legal documents that they have with the DOT, but ultimately they didn't feel comfortable with any of that. They wanted to see the right-of-way formally dedicated on the Plat before they would approve just that short Pike River Way connection to 31. So this Plat really hasn't changed since you saw it last. They've been just checking off engineering stuff. All of our existing conditions shown, I think there's 6 or 7 of them, are mostly just engineering stuff that they're working through, or things that we have to include on a Plat approval, like development agreement kind of stuff, odds and ends. So we're in the final stages of working through this large mixed-use neighborhood, new mixed-use neighborhood in the village. And we're just trying to get this DOT wrench out of the way before they can go and record the Plat at the Register of Deeds. So with that, I can answer any questions that you all have, but this really hasn't changed much since last year.
Sam, just procedurally here, we approved a final plat of subdivision for this project.
Correct.
And now, are you bringing back an amended final plat, or are you bringing back a fresh standalone final plat? And if so, how does that legally or logistically?
There's no functional difference because they never recorded it.
Okay,
if
it
they
wasn't
had
recorded.
recorded the
Okay.
property, then it would have been like an amendment, and it would have been tough. But thankfully, the process worked as intended, so they were going to record it. DOT objected to the Plat, so the Department of Administration notes that the applicant got back included DOT's objection. This is how they worked through it with DOT to solve that objection, and then they'll just record this as the final plat. So there is no amendment or anything else needed. It is just the final version of the plat.
So as far as the village's regulations and policies and procedures, what we're looking at today will be the final plat.
Correct, yeah. And generally for small things or things contained with conditions, we won't bring them back to you because we've discussed them or you've contemplated them. But because they are dedicating all of that new right-of-way, by reading the state statutes, it was pretty clear that they should come back and, get your reapproval again. It's not our favorite process ultimately because that right-of-way south of this first phase isn't engineered. So we'll likely have to amend that Yates Drive right-of-way in the future to abandon some parts of it as it's engineered, even if it's like a foot or so difference. So from our point of view, this whole process has been kind of annoying, but I get where DOT is coming from. So this is just one of the ways that we have to solve it.
So in your conditions, it talks about the subdivider shall amend the plat to show vision triangle restrictions. So the plat we're looking at today in front of us will still have one more tweak before it becomes final.
Correct. There's a few that they'll need to add, update some landscaping plans,
Those aren't
street
shown
lighting
on
plans.
but as far as being shown on the plat,
That should be the only
that's the only
major
one-
thing, yeah.
okay.
Everything else is really just the civil documents that come after the fact.
your other conditions all will get caught along the way with.
Exactly. And we included just the ultimate, the Public Works Director has to approve all the required improvements. So Tony will have to, double check all of our work at the very end as well. But
And then has the developers indicated when they're going to get shovels in the ground?
they would like to be out there now. We are in the final stages. The village board approved a development agreement. The village attorney is coordinating to get that signed with the developer like this week as we speak. They're
Great.
really just trying to tie up loose ends so they can get out there. They would have been out there months ago had they been able to. So this one has kind of lagged due to bureaucracy more than anything else.
There have been a small number of other kind of changes in the meantime. Mainly, as the developer has gotten a little bit more used to what you can do within our code. Some of the new lots take advantage of the twin house approval, which is basically like a duplex with a property line in the middle. So we're really kind of impressed that they didn't waste the time. They improved the plat. I think they went from 63 to 80.
Yeah, if you remember from your original approval last year, there were some questions about lot sizes and things, so the way they went about solving that was utilizing some of the other zoning flexibilities that we have. So it's been nice to see them do that.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions, concerns for staff?
Our hope is you'll see them out there before the end of the summer, if not sooner.
Okay. Anybody want to add anything?
Oh, I should note that Dan, the applicant from Bear, asked if he needed to be here. He's on vacation, and I told him he did not need to call in or forgo his vacation or anything. So it's not that Bear is slighting you all. I specifically told him he didn't need to come today because the change was so
golfing
minor.
with Joe and Tosh.
Yeah, probably.
I'm a little suspicious here.
No, he assured me he's up in northern Minnesota with his family. So.
Well, then we should
table it?
spoof him. We should spoof him somehow. I mean, he's a great guy, and it will. He would be devastated. He would be devastated if.
Why don't you approve it, and I'll just tell him we tabled it when he comes
Okay,
back.
yeah, try that.
If he's not watching.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Davis, to driver to approve Pike River Crossing Final Plat FSP 23-2.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions?
That is subject to the recommended conditions.
Subject to the
correct?
Subject to the recommended conditions,
I
yes.
second that addition.
Very good. Good catch. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So that appears to be my bad. I need to make sure that I add those conditions to motions at Plan Commission.
Frank will
It
catch it.
seems
Don't
like-
worry about it.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
He's got your back.
All right, thank you, Frank.
All right, next will be park bench donations.
All right. Just 1 second, pulling up the applications now. They got closed out. I believe we have 4 benches and 1 tree donation here. So the first, the individual had submitted 2 different applications for Campus Park. She did not indicate that on the actual form itself, but she already had a Campus Park one approved before that. We already have designated bench locations for this, so we're going to go out there and tour and figure out which ones that she wants, but it's going to be based on the plan that's out there. So we've got so those are the first 2. The third one is on the Pike River Pathway. There's already a built-out concrete slab that's just south of Brown Road. So that will go there. The McFarland one is going to be a little bit further south of that previous bench, located by the marker for RCPRP. That kind of falls in line with the amount of feet that we've been trying to keep between each of the benches. So that would be a new pad on the pathway. That would give us 3 benches throughout that stretch of the Pike River Pathway between Broad Road and KR. And then the last one is a tree donation for Smolinski Park. She submitted her ideal location, but she's more than flexible with any area that we want to put a tree. So we'll meet out there on site. We actually, I think, have a tree that might need replacement in that area that's not on this particular. So it's actually a good timing for a tree donation. So the reason that these are brought to the commission is because it's part of our memorial donation policy that gets reviewed each year. So again, there's only one location where we'd actually be putting in a new bench that's not an existing pad. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't approve that location, so I do support it.
I think it's great that we have people doing this in honor of, I can see some are family members. I think it's great. And our President DeGroot, gotta love his slogan there on his. he's planting that one by my house. I don't know, I'm not sure why, but.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's a little
George.
further north.
The line, on the first bench, line 1, you are always.
Yeah, that's a typo. She
Yeah.
sent me a correction
Yeah.
via email. So
Just-
she noticed that. And she also wants to change a loan to solo. So
Okay, now
I
I-
always send proofs to the individuals. So if there's anything major with what they have on here that I didn't, all of them are in good nature. And so a few changes here or there I usually don't bring back. But yeah, they always get a proof of it prior to me sending it to the
Yeah.
company.
I just thought I'd bring it up because you don't want to approve anything and they say, oh, we got to go through this again approval. because
Exactly.
There's a change in the language.
Yep.
You are always be, doesn't make sense.
And the reason that they all are lumped together is because we try to save on shipping costs. So that's why some of them may have been from a little bit over a month. I try to lump them up together to make it a little bit easier for our company that manufactures them too. So
George, what's the price range for the trees?
it's per species. So it depends on some areas where we go to which nursery. So we look at the caliper size for them, and we kind of give them an idea. So sometimes you can get like a 2-inch, and I think they wanted a maple. So depending on the type of maple too, anywhere from 250 to 385, sometimes even more than that. So yeah, we like to encourage them to a higher caliper for more success. And then we take care of bagging them and watering them for them as, you know, as that first year of planting goes on, so.
Very nice.
And if something happens within that first year, is it a guarantee from the nursery, or do we just replace it?
Some are built in. A lot of times that comes with like larger landscape plans versus a singular tree. I don't think I've gotten any actual guarantees for a singular purchase like this, but if we could prove to them that we've watered on a regular basis, that we treated it the way it needed to be, most of the nurseries are good about it. That I'm sure that they would replace it if needed.
And if the tree gets damaged, cracked in half or something, do we just replace it as part of our operating budget and
Yep.
still keep it as a memorial?
Yeah, so what we have done, especially if it was a memorial tree, we would replace that with the same species that they had originally had. To give you an example of like how the trees planting work, when we planted 45 trees out at Campus Park, they had, I think, 7 or 8 that didn't take. So we've replaced that, and that was the landscaper's responsibility for the first year per his agreement to make sure, and we need to make sure that we go back and we can verify that we've been watering on a regular basis and treating it after they've left site. So we hadn't accepted any of those trees, so that's why he was responsible for replacing them, so.
Okay.
Just kind of a little bit more in the weeds on how all that works.
Any questions for
Do we need a
George?
motion on this, Chairman?
Yeah, so this, you can do a motion to approve all, I think, at once, right, Sam? I think that's how we've done it
Yep.
before.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve all the bench donation and the tree, proposed tree location as some landscape park as proposed.
A second.
Second. Motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Way to go, George.
Thank you. So then moving on. Hold on.
The main one, Campus Park.
I know Robin's giving me a hold on here, so. It's all right, I can start with the update.
Go ahead.
And if you got it, okay. So Campus Park, kind of our monthly update here. Since we last had a meeting, we've done a lot of various things out there. Most of it has been related to grass and asphalt work. The basketball court, based on what we evaluated from the fall, had to be completely resurfaced and redone because we weren't accepting the work that was out there. So that work has been now completed. We've got a fair amount of saw cutting that needs to be done around the edges of all of the pathways, which is another reason why the fence is still currently up. We have begun watering, not only during the day, but we have a temporary irrigation system that's set up to do various zones throughout the park at night, just to help us with the challenges of the lack of spring. We were able to have Relay for Life out there. I can't thank them enough for their flexibility. They originally were going to be utilizing the stage, the Great Lawn, a lot of the other areas this year. They pivoted with about 3 weeks prior to the event based on our walkthrough with them. They ended up moving to the parking lot. They had great success. They were very complimentary of us about how we were able to help them out. So they shared some photos from the event that are up on the screen now. So they actually did like the construction fence because they were able to hang a lot of their signs for their sponsors. So it worked out that alleyway was filled with all of their sponsor banners and stuff. But they had a great turnout. It was a good test for us from the facility standpoint. We ran into some issues that we've since rectified about how the time clock works with the doors and how the key fobs, and so it was a good test for us before we actually get open for everybody. So, and I'm sure that's on everyone's mind. When are we opening? So I've been working with Sam and Lisa on the information that we're going to get out to the public. The fence is currently scheduled to come down starting July 6th, which is about a 5 business day procedure. So it'll be the week of July 10th when we'll start opening up various amenities. It's going to be, the restrooms will be open, the basketball courts, the walking paths. The splash pad will be open July 17th, and that will go through Labor Day. The picnic shelters will be available for use. We're only going to be reserving one shelter, which is the one that's located by the pond. Those bookings won't be allowed until August, but we'll begin taking those reservations the week of July 17th. And we're going to have a lot of signage up in various areas to keep people in line with what is happening and why we need to have them out of certain areas, treading lightly where the grass seed is coming in. I know I talked about that a lot at the last meeting about why we're holding off from letting individuals in certain areas of the park. Softball diamonds will remain locked. We're exploring fencing around the soccer/cricket area. The Great Lawn is going to have some signage to try to keep people off of there, and we're not going to be renting the stage out in 2023 either. So, I'm getting lots of communication from people asking why they're not down. So we're going to also have information about all that work that I was referring to about why the fence is still up, and it's really for their safety. If we're coming in and having people saw cutting along the asphalt paths, how are we supposed to have people who have no idea that we're out there doing that, coming in from various parts, because you can come from every angle to get into this park, and it was designed that way. So our playgrounds program, we did adapt and move them to Smolenski until that week of the 10th. Parents have been very receptive to that, and we're going to try to figure out a way to get them there during this time frame when the fence is still up, just so that they can still be like the first users of those areas. And again, provide us with a little bit of testing. How does the splash pad work? Is the sequence down right? Is it, and with our own staff out there, we're able to control where they're going a little bit better. So, and that's part of the reason why we're holding off on any picnic reservations, is we can't control those individuals' parties, whereas, the playgrounds program, we can. It's our own staff. So if they're treading on the grass when they're not supposed to, that's on us. So, but yeah, I think it's good news. It's still a little bit from full completion, but it's unlikely that we'll do any major grand opening type event out there just this year, because it's most likely not going to be available. So we'll pivot to doing something for that next spring, but in the meantime, there's still a lot of amenities that people get to use this year. So,
George, is the schedule of opening, like you said, starting in the week of July the 10th? So, is that already posted on the website, or do you plan to?
Yeah,
post
we're
it?
still reviewing all of the material with Lisa, just the drafts, making sure. We just found out today that they were going to come in a couple days earlier to start getting the fence down, so we had indicated that we were going to do an announcement today. I sent it to Maureen to share with the trustees, that we were going to begin this process here and that we would start that communication tomorrow, so.
Yeah, but I would suggest that even if it's kind of a tentative, because people have been asking what's going on, when is opening.
Yeah, something will definitely be posted.
It's not tentative. I mean, the fence is scheduled to come down. So once the fence is down, we're not going to be able to stop people from going through. So that's why we're opening.
Okay.
George, you planning to overseed the problem grass areas in the fall or later this summer?
Yeah, so we did overseeding 2 different times already. They're letting the grass grow a little bit longer to provide some more shade for that new seed too. We cut everything down at the about late May to clear out any of the weeds and all of that to have proper growth. You'll see that some of the areas are coming in. So like some of the prairie seed along some of the pathways did come in real well, so we haven't touched any of that. But yeah, all of that prairie seed is going to continue to grow. We won't be mowing that, and once it gets to a certain level for all the athletic turf areas and great lawn, we'll begin cutting that. But it will probably look a little bit higher than what you would normally see at some of our other parks. We've got a company coming in who's specifically managing all the native plantings, and then they're going to be picking up the mowing once our contractors are out. So we do have a maintenance plan in place for this year, and then we'll be going out to bid for campus park maintenance and our mowing contracts for the next 3 years.
Great update, thank you.
Sure.
It's too
I think
bad
that was
about the
it.
drought, but
Yep.
that hasn't helped. I mean, that's just.
Gotta work with what you get.
We always
Yeah,
save
and
the best for last.
I understand the conflict too, because it's like.
I noticed some sarcasm in that tone.
There's-
So we're going to go through permits and municipal complaints. I know the board wanted that in the packet at last time. Every attempt was made to get that to happen, but it did not come through in the time period, considering we had some packet difficulties, so to speak. So we'll have that for you, as well as basically like this report plus the next one in the next report. So these are the recently approved permits by type. And that includes permits that you all approve as a body, like site plan reviews. And these are the ones by the name, just sign permits and zoning compliance, occupancy certificates, stuff like that. And this goes back, the 2 variances that were approved, some additional sign permits, mostly sign permits, zoning compliance permits. And zoning compliance permits consist of certificates of occupancy, shed permits that are too small for a building permit, and chickens. And that's about it. But chickens has been consistent. It keeps on, we get applications for chickens, and recently I read an article that Wind Point declined the chicken ordinances, and it wasn't for them, Yes, you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, gee.
Wait, I'm sorry, how many, where on here does it say there's chicken permits?
Well, some of the zoning compliance permits are chicken permits.
Oh, that's what those, I was wondering okay.
Yeah, and not all of them are, but it's just a type. So we probably should break zoning compliance permits down by that type, but we definitely have like over 20 that have applied since it's been, besides the big garages or sheds, which has been by far the most popular provision of the new zoning code, chickens is a close second.
What database are you using for this? Because I see Racine. Sturdivant gets their own building, but we don't.
It's basically the county's GIS generation of the address.
Okay,
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so unless on,
Like, in other words, instead of saying Mount Pleasant,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, they have stood and
Technically, they-
proceed.
yeah, when the deeds are recorded, it depends on what they write on there, and then the county just transcribes it, so.
That's what I was wondering where the
Yeah, it's
software.
a mixture of everything.
Okay, so, and these are our new permit applications within the last 35 days. There is some overlap here depending on how fast something was approved, but, stuff that you've seen today, such as the final plat approval, and wireless communications, I recognize one name on here, okay.
Nancy.
Sign permits, site plan reviews, all that sort of stuff. And then the zoning map amendment that we approved today, as well as the site plan, so. Now our favorite municipal complaints, so completed. You can definitely notice that we are in the weed season. Overgrown grass and weeds, taking its #1 seeding to account and going out in front of the pack, so. And some other fallen tree ones, grading and drainage, all that sort of stuff. And there is the ones that we have completed. Now, I have to give credit to Teresa, who is the weed commissioner, otherwise known as the weed czar. She takes all of the weed and long grass complaints.
Robin, who handles the traffic concerns? Does that get routed to the police department?
Yeah, almost always.
Okay.
If it's something like about a sign, that goes to DPW, but other traffic concerns go to the police. And there are definitely some repeat offenders on there. This one I think is that Chicory Road? No. There has been a lot of traffic concerns on Chicory Road and thereabouts. And these are new municipal complaints. Obviously, it's dialed back a little bit, now that we have passed the initial surge of No Mow May, which we don't actually observe, just, some people just do anyway. And just some other ones of, junk vehicles, swimming pool, a couple of blighted buildings. I am working with the village attorney. We had 3 cases, court cases, initial court hearings in June. We have 3 more coming up in July, where citations were issued, and now they're going through the court process. And the village attorney we have talked with, and we are planning to bring 4 nuisance violation cases to municipal court, circuit court. So we're advancing them up a level. So that's it for me. Any questions?
I can see why you're busy. That's a lot of complaints and I shouldn't call them little because they're legitimate, but they're picky kind of stuff,
Yeah, and there's
Too busy.
And there's all sorts of stuff. Some of the more persnickety ones have been about lighting, and I have to I have to get the police to help me because obviously I'm not working at 9:30 at night whenever it gets dark now, and apparently that's unacceptable. But I was like, I'm not going to work till 9:30 at night to review this. Call me back in December. I'll check in December at 4:30. So, that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Robin.
And at least we get lots of municipal complaints when it's really nice outside.
Yes.
So.
Nothing from me this month. You heard enough from me today.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.